You can achieve anything you want in this life. I want you to really sit with that for a moment. Not just hear it, but feel it. Because what I'm about to share with you is not motivation. It is not a pep talk. It is a truth that has been hidden in plain sight for centuries. And once you understand it, your mind will never operate the same way again. Deep within you, right now, there is a power, a force so vast, so connected to the fundamental energy of this universe that when you learn how to access it, truly access it, everything you have ever wanted becomes not just possible, but inevitable. Money, love, success, peace, happiness, a life that feels like it was made exactly for you, all of it is within reach. Not someday, not when the conditions are right, now. But here is the truth that nobody tells you. Most people will live their entire lives and never touch this power, not because it isn't there, but because they never knew to look for it. You were not born just to wake up, go through the motions, feel tired, and do it all over again. That is not your purpose. That is not your story. You are not an ordinary creature living an ordinary existence. You are something far greater than that. You carry within you a connection to the most mysterious and most powerful energy in the known universe, and that connection lives in what we call the superconscious mind. Now, you may have heard of the conscious mind, the part that thinks, plans, worries, and calculates, and you've probably heard of the subconscious mind, the part that stores your memories, your habits, your fears. But the superconscious mind is something different entirely. It sits above both. It is the part of you that is connected to something larger than yourself. It is the part of you that does not know the word impossible. It is the part of you that knows, without any evidence, without any proof, that you are meant for more. Scientists tell us that the average human being uses only 5 to 10% of their full mental capacity. Think about that. 5 to 10%. That means the most powerful part of your mind, the part that transforms thought into energy and energy into reality, has been sitting there, silent and waiting for your entire life. And the question is not whether this power exists. The question is, are you going to wake it up? Look around you. Have you ever noticed that some of the most successful people in the world, the ones who built empires, who changed industries, who seemed to attract opportunity wherever they went, were not always the smartest people in the room? They didn't always have the best education. They didn't always have money or connections or advantages. And yet, they achieved extraordinary things, while others, who worked twice as hard and twice as long, stayed exactly where they started. Why does that happen? Is it luck? Is it who you know? Is it where you were born? No, it is the superconscious mind. Those people, whether they could name it or not, had learned to access something deeper. They had a clarity of vision that went beyond logic. They had a belief that lived in their bones, not just their thoughts. They had an energy, a magnetic, undeniable energy that pulled them toward their goals rather than pushing against the world. The superconscious mind is not mystical. It is not reserved for monks or geniuses or the chosen few. It is inside you right now. But it is asleep. And your limited conscious mind, the one that questions everything, doubts every possibility, and lives in constant fear of failure, has been running the show. That limited mind is the one that says, "That's too hard. That's not for someone like me. What if I fail?" And as long as that voice is the loudest voice in the room, your superconscious will stay silent. But the superconscious mind speaks a different language. In that space, there is no fear. There is no doubt. There is no version of reality where you are small or unworthy or incapable. There is only yes. Yes, I can. Yes, this is mine. Yes, I am more than enough. And the moment you begin to speak that language, the moment you shift from limitation to expansion, your brain begins operating on an entirely new frequency. This frequency is not metaphor, it is not poetry, it is a real, measurable shift in how your mind engages with the world around you, and that frequency connects you to the same creative energy that holds this universe together.
The same energy that sparks ideas, opens doors, and brings the right people into your life at exactly the right moment. You may have heard the ancient principle, as within, so without. What is inside you will always, always manifest on the outside. If you carry emptiness inside, your life will reflect scarcity. If you carry fear inside, you will continue to meet obstacles at every turn. But, and this is everything, if you carry power inside, if you carry clarity and vision and an unshakable sense of worthiness, the outside world will bend to meet you. It will provide pathways you didn't know existed. It will bring you support from directions you never expected. This is not imagination. This is not wishful thinking. This is the door hidden deep inside every human being, the door from which miracles are born. It is the same place where Albert Einstein received the insight for his theory of relativity, where Nikola Tesla envisioned his greatest discoveries before a single wire was ever laid, where Steve Jobs saw Apple not as a company, but as a revolution. These were not superhuman beings. They were people, complicated, flawed, uncertain people who dared to go deeper, who learned to trust the intelligence that lives below the surface of conscious thought. And that same intelligence lives in you. Now I want to introduce you to one of the most powerful laws governing human experience. It is called the law of assumption, and understanding it will change the way you see everything. The law of assumption states this: whatever you truly believe to be true from the deepest place inside you becomes your experience of reality. Not eventually, not after you earn it, now. This means that if you believe deep in your bones that you are capable of success, your mind, your energy, and your actions will all align to make that belief real. But if you believe, again from that deep, quiet, unconscious place, that you are a failure, that you don't deserve good things, that life is hard and unfair and nothing ever works out for you, then no amount of hard work, no strategy, no hustle will break through that ceiling. Because the ceiling isn't out there, it's in here. Most people have the process completely backwards. They say, when I finally make the money, then I'll feel successful. Or, when people start respecting me, then I'll feel confident. Or, when things start going right, then I'll believe things can go right. But the universe does not respond to your circumstances. It responds to your consciousness. It reacts to what you believe before the evidence arrives. Faith before proof, assumption before result, identity before achievement. Think of it this way. Imagine you have a mirror, a magic mirror, that doesn't show you what you look like on the outside. It shows you what you believe on the inside. If you see yourself as broken, the mirror reflects struggle. If you see yourself as powerful, capable, and worthy, the mirror reflects a life that matches that image. And here is the extraordinary thing. The mirror never lies. It cannot lie. It can only show you what you truly believe. So the real work, the most important work you will ever do, is not out there in the world. It is in here, in your mind, in your identity, in the story you tell yourself about who you are and what you are capable of. Because that story is the blueprint, and your life is simply the building that gets constructed from it. So I want to ask you something, and I want you to answer it honestly. Not the answer you think sounds good, but the real answer, the one that lives quietly underneath all the noise. What do you actually believe about yourself? When no one is watching, when you're alone with your thoughts at the end of the day, who do you think you are? Because that answer is the starting point of everything. And in the chapters ahead, we are going to rebuild that answer from the ground up.
We talked about the superconscious mind. We talked about the law of assumption. And we asked one of the most important questions a human being can ask themselves. What do I truly believe about who I am? Now in part 2, we go deeper, because knowing the concept is one thing, but transforming your inner world, rewiring the beliefs that have been running silently in the background for years, maybe decades, that is a different kind of work. And that is exactly what we are going to begin today. Let me start with a simple truth. Your brain is not neutral. It is not an empty vessel waiting for instructions. From the moment you were born, it began absorbing information from your parents, your environment, your experiences, your failures, your wins, the words people said to you, the words they didn't say. And over time, all of that information became something. It became a belief system, a filter through which you see every single thing that happens to you. And here is the problem. Most of that belief system was formed before you were old enough to question it, before you had the wisdom to decide what was true and what wasn't. A teacher told you that you weren't smart enough, and somewhere in that young mind, a file was created. A parent struggled financially, and you absorbed the silent message that money is hard to come by. A relationship ended painfully, and your nervous system lodged it as evidence that love leads to loss. None of these conclusions were intentional, none of them were your fault, but they became your operating system. And until you update that system, it will keep producing the same results no matter how hard you try to change the output. This is why so many intelligent, hard-working, genuinely good people feel stuck. It is not a lack of effort, it is not a lack of talent. It is an invisible program running underneath everything, a program that contradicts every conscious effort they make. You take one step forward and something pulls you 2 steps back. You get close to a breakthrough and suddenly self-sabotage appears. You start something with excitement and then mysteriously the motivation fades. That is not weakness, that is a belief system protecting what it thinks is true about you. And the only way to change your life permanently is to change what that system believes. So how do you do it? How do you reach into something that is largely unconscious and rewrite it? This is where the superconscious mind becomes your greatest ally. Because the superconscious does not operate in logic. It does not respond to arguments or willpower or spreadsheets of reasons why you should believe something different. It responds to feeling, to repetition, to imagination lived from the inside out, to the emotional experience of something before it physically exists. Let me explain what that means. When you imagine something, truly imagine it, not as a distant wish, but as a present reality that you can feel in your body. Your brain cannot fully distinguish between the imagined experience and a real one. Neuroscience has confirmed this. The same neural pathways that fire when you physically do something also fire when you vividly imagine doing it. This means that every time you sit in the feeling of already having what you want, every time you inhabit that identity with your full emotional presence, you're literally rewiring your brain. You're creating new pathways, new defaults, a new normal. This is what the great achievers throughout history understood, often instinctively. They didn't just want their goals, they lived inside them mentally before they arrived physically. They became, on the inside, the person who had already crossed the finish line, and because of that, the outside world had no choice but to catch up. Now I want to give you something practical, something you can begin using today. It is called the assumption shift, and it works like this. Think of one area of your life where you feel stuck. Maybe that is your finances, maybe it is your career, maybe it's a relationship, your health, your confidence. Pick one. Now ask yourself, what is the assumption I am currently holding about this area? Not what you wish were true, what you actually, quietly, deeply believe. Write it down if you can, say it out loud if you can, because naming it takes away its invisibility, and invisible beliefs are the most dangerous kind. Perhaps you discover the assumption is something like, I am not the kind of person that attracts wealth. Or, I always seem to find the wrong kind of people. Or, no matter what I do, I end up back at zero. These are painful things to admit, but admitting them is the first act of power, because you cannot change what you refuse to see. Now, here's the second step. You create a new assumption. Not an affirmation that you repeat mechanically without feeling, not a phrase you say in the mirror while your gut quietly laughs at you. A new assumption is a chosen belief that you decide to inhabit. You choose to live from it.
You choose to interpret your daily experiences through it. Not because you have proof yet, but because you understand that proof follows belief, not the other way around. So instead of, I am not the kind of person that attracts wealth, you begin living from, wealth finds me because I operate from value and vision. Instead of, I always find the wrong people, you begin living from, I attract relationships that are aligned with who I truly am. Instead of, I always end up at zero, you begin living from, I am someone who grows, learns, and builds something real. And then, and this is crucial, you begin to act from that new assumption. Not perfectly, not all at once, but you start making small decisions that the person with that new belief would make. You start carrying yourself the way that person would carry themselves. You start speaking the way that person would speak. Because assumptions are not just thoughts, they are postures, they are choices, they are the lens through which you engage with every moment of your day. The superconscious mind responds to this. It is always listening, always watching the signals you send through your thoughts, your emotions, your behaviors. And when those signals shift, when you begin consistently broadcasting a new identity, the superconscious aligns with it. It begins pulling toward you the people, the opportunities, the ideas, and the circumstances that match the new version of you that you are choosing to become. Now I want to talk about resistance, because it will come. It always does. The moment you decide to change a deep belief, the old programming will fight back. You will hear it say, who do you think you are? You will hear it say, this is just fantasy, get back to reality. You will hear it say, you've tried this before and it didn't work. And for a moment, it will feel very convincing. It will feel like wisdom. It will feel like common sense protecting you from disappointment. But here's what you need to know about that voice. It is not wisdom. It is history. It is a recording of old experiences, old wounds, old conclusions made by a younger, less aware version of you. And you are not that person anymore. You are someone who has chosen to go deeper, someone who has decided to stop letting the past write the future. That voice deserves compassion because it came from real pain, but it does not deserve obedience. Every time resistance appears, treat it as a signal, not a stop sign, but a signal that you are moving exactly the right direction. Growth always feels uncomfortable at first. The unfamiliar always triggers the alarm system of the old mind. But discomfort is not danger. Discomfort is expansion. It is the feeling of becoming more than you were yesterday. There is one more concept I want to plant in your mind before we close this part, and it is this. The universe is not indifferent to you. I know that can be hard to believe, especially when life has been difficult, especially when you have worked hard and waited long and still feel like you are on the outside looking in. But the universe is not random. It is responsive. It is a mirror, the greatest mirror that exists, and it reflects back with extraordinary precision exactly what you are putting out from the inside. This means that every shift you make within yourself, no matter how small, creates a corresponding shift in what you experience outside. A moment of genuine self-belief sends a ripple outward. A decision to choose courage over fear sends a ripple outward. A morning where you wake up and deliberately choose to see yourself as capable, worthy, and on your way, that sends a ripple outward. And ripples, over time, become waves. You are not trying to trick the universe. You are not trying to fake anything. You are participating in the most honest conversation there is. The conversation between who you are inside and what life gives you on the outside. And you are learning, maybe for the first time, how to speak the language that conversation requires. You have the power to rewrite your story, not by changing everything overnight, but by changing the assumption underneath everything. One belief at a time, one day at a time, one honest, courageous choice at a time.
I want you to know something. The fact that you are still here, still listening, still choosing to invest in your own transformation, that itself is a signal. It means something inside you already knows that what we are talking about is real. It means the superconscious mind is already beginning to stir. And in this part, we're going to go to a place that very few people ever explore. We're going to talk about what happens when you close your eyes, when the world goes quiet, when your conscious mind finally steps aside. We're going to talk about the incredible, largely untapped power of sleep. Most people think of sleep as simply rest. The body powers down, the mind goes dark, and you wake up 8 hours later more or less the same person you were when you laid down. But that is not what is actually happening, not even close. Sleep is not an absence of mental activity. It is one of the most active and most powerful states your mind ever enters. And for those who understand how to use it, truly use it, sleep becomes the single greatest tool for transformation available to any human being. Here's what the science tells us. As you move from wakefulness into sleep, your brain passes through a state called the hypnagogic state. This is the threshold between being awake and being asleep. In this state, your conscious, critical, analytical mind, the part that filters, judges, and doubts, begins to relax its grip. Its defenses come down, and in that window, the door to the subconscious and superconscious mind swings wide open. Whatever you feed your mind in that threshold moment goes in deep, deeper than any affirmation you repeat during the day, deeper than any visualization you do with your eyes wide open and your analytical mind still running in the background. This is why what you think about in the last few minutes before you fall asleep matters more than almost anything else in your mental practice. Most people spend those final moments scrolling through social media, watching videos that trigger comparison and anxiety, replaying arguments, worrying about tomorrow. And then they wonder why they wake up feeling heavy, anxious, and uninspired. They've been feeding the most receptive state of their mind with exactly the wrong material. But you are going to do something different, starting tonight. Here's the practice. In the last 5 to 10 minutes before you fall asleep, you are going to do what I call conscious sleep seeding. You are going to deliberately choose what you plant in that fertile threshold state. You are going to close your eyes, take 3 slow, deep breaths, and then, with as much sensory detail and emotional richness as you can, you are going to live inside the version of your life that you are calling into existence. Not as a wish, not as a hope, as a memory, as something that has already happened. You are going to feel the emotions of that life, the satisfaction, the freedom, the pride, the love, the peace. You are going to hear the sounds of that life, see the images, feel the physical sensations in your body, and you are going to fall asleep inside that feeling. This is not a small thing. When you do this consistently, night after night, you are feeding the superconscious mind the most powerful signal it can receive. You are telling it at its deepest level of receptivity, this is who I am. This is what is real. This is where I live. And the superconscious, which does not argue, does not doubt, and does not distinguish between imagined reality and physical reality, accepts it and begins working through the night, through your dreams, through the invisible network of intelligence that connects all things to bring that reality into physical form. The ancient Egyptians understood this. The mystics of every tradition understood this. And now modern neuroscience is confirming what they always knew. The sleeping mind is the most powerful creative force a human being possesses. Now let's talk about visualization, because most people are doing it wrong. And I say that not to criticize, but because the difference between visualization that changes your life and visualization that feels like pleasant daydreaming is actually very specific. And once you understand it, everything shifts. The mistake most people make is visualizing from the outside. They picture themselves in a scene, the way you would watch a movie. They see a character on a screen who looks like them, driving the car, standing in the house, receiving the award. And it feels nice, but it doesn't move the needle, because the superconscious mind does not respond to images you observe. It responds to experiences you inhabit. Effective visualization is done from the inside looking out.
You are not watching yourself succeed. You are being yourself already succeeding. You are seeing through your own eyes. You are feeling through your own body. You are experiencing the moment as if it's happening right now in real time to you. The difference in emotional intensity between these two approaches is enormous, and emotional intensity is the currency of the superconscious mind. It's the signal that says, this is real, this matters, this is where we are going. So here's how to do it properly. Find a quiet place where you will not be disturbed. Sit or lie down comfortably. Close your eyes. Take several slow breaths until your body begins to relax. Now, choose one specific outcome that you are calling into your life. Just one. Specificity is power. Vague visions produce vague results. Now build the scene, but build it from the inside. Where are you? What do you see when you look around? What sounds do you hear? What does the air feel like against your skin? Who is with you? What are they saying? What are you saying? What does your body feel like? The posture, the ease, the aliveness of someone living their dream. And most importantly, what emotions are moving through you in this moment? Let those emotions be real right now, in your body, in this moment. Because to the superconscious mind, they are real, they are happening, and it will respond accordingly. Do this for 5 to 10 minutes every single day. Morning is powerful. The hypnopompic state, the threshold between sleep and waking, is another window where the critical mind is still soft and the superconscious is highly accessible. Use those first quiet minutes of the morning before you check your phone, before you speak to anyone, before the noise of the world rushes in. Use them to set the frequency of your day from the inside out. Now I want to talk about the one daily practice that the most extraordinary people in history have shared. And when I tell you what it is, it might surprise you with its simplicity, because the most powerful things are usually simple. They're just not easy. The practice is this. Every single day, without exception, they chose their identity before the world had a chance to choose it for them. What does that mean? It means before the demands arrived, before the emails, the news, the opinions of other people, the challenges, the noise, they took a moment, however brief, to deliberately decide who they were that day. Not who they had been yesterday, not who other people expected them to be, who they were choosing to be, right now, in this moment, going forward. Some of them did it through journaling, some through meditation, some through prayer, some through intense physical exercise that forced the mind into a different state. The form varied, but the intention was always the same. I am not going to let the world define me today. I am going to define myself, and then I am going to move through the world from that chosen identity. This is one of the most radical acts of self-determination a human being can perform. Because the world is constantly, persistently, aggressively trying to tell you who you are. Your past is trying to tell you. Your fears are trying to tell you. Other people's opinions are trying to tell you. The media is trying to tell you. And if you don't consciously choose your identity every single day, something else will choose it for you. And whatever chooses it for you will always choose something smaller than what you are truly capable of. So you must choose. Every morning, even on the days when you don't feel like it, especially on those days, you wake up and you say, today I am someone who creates. Today I am someone who moves forward. Today I am someone who is worthy of everything I am building. And then you live from that as best you can for the rest of the day. You will not do it perfectly. Some days the old patterns will pull hard. Some days the world will push back in ways that knock you sideways. That is not failure. That is the process. Every time you return to your chosen identity after being pulled away, you are strengthening the neural pathway. You are making the new belief more real, more automatic, more deeply yours. Think of it like building a muscle. You don't go to the gym once and walk out with a different body. You go consistently, over time, and the body changes gradually, permanently. The mind works the same way. Every repetition counts. Every return to the truth of who you are choosing to be is a deposit into an account that one day will overflow into your physical reality. Before we close this part, I want to leave you with one final thought, and it is this: you are not behind. No matter how long you have been living from a limited belief system, no matter how many years feel like they were spent going in circles, you are not behind. Because the moment you change the assumption, the moment you genuinely shift the identity from the inside, the entire accumulated experience of your life becomes fuel. Every struggle becomes wisdom, every failure becomes data, every wound becomes a source of depth and compassion that will make your success not just.
And if you have been with us from the very beginning, through the superconscious mind, through the law of assumption, through the power of sleep and visualization and daily identity, that I want you to pause for just a moment and recognize something. You are not the same person who started this journey. Something has already shifted. Maybe you cannot fully name it yet. Maybe it feels like a quiet stirring, a new kind of alertness, a sense that something inside you is waking up. That is not imagination. That is real. That is the superconscious mind responding to your willingness to go deeper. And today, we are going to talk about the force that accelerates everything. The force that, when genuinely activated, acts like a rocket fuel for every dream, every goal, every intention you have ever held. That force is gratitude. Now, before you close off, before you think, gratitude, I've heard this before, I want you to stay with me, because what I am about to share with you is not the gratitude you have been told about. It is not a list you write in a journal every morning. It is not a polite thank you sent upward to the universe for the things that are already comfortable and easy. What I am talking about is something far more radical, far more alive, far more powerful than anything that can be captured in a 5-minute morning routine. True gratitude, the kind that the superconscious mind responds to, is not a reaction to good circumstances. It is a choice made in the presence of any circumstances. It is the decision to find the signal of abundance inside a moment before that abundance has fully arrived. It is the discipline of recognizing that what you are seeking is already in motion, already on its way, already woven into the fabric of what is becoming your reality, even when your eyes cannot see it yet. That kind of gratitude is not passive. It is one of the most active, most courageous, most transformative states a human being can enter. Let me explain why gratitude works at such a deep level. And to understand this, we need to talk about frequency. Everything in this universe, every thought, every emotion, every physical object vibrates at a specific frequency. This is not mysticism. This is physics. Matter at its most fundamental level is energy in motion. And energy vibrates. Your thoughts vibrate, your emotions vibrate, and different emotional states vibrate at radically different frequencies. Fear, lack, resentment, anxiety, these vibrate at low frequencies, not because they are bad or shameful emotions, but because they are contracting states. They pull energy inward and downward. They signal to the superconscious mind and to the universe that there is not enough, that life is a threat, that the future is something to be dreaded rather than embraced. Gratitude, on the other hand, vibrates at one of the highest frequencies available to the human emotional system. It is an expanding state. It opens. It reaches outward. It signals there is enough. There is more coming. Life is fundamentally on my side. And the superconscious mind, which is always reading the signal you are broadcasting, responds to gratitude by aligning you with more of what you are grateful for. Not as a reward, not as a transaction, but as a simple, elegant law of resonance. Like attracts like. Abundance attracts abundance. The frequency of having calls toward you more of what having feels like. This is why people who are genuinely grateful, not performatively grateful, not gratitude as a strategy, but truly, deeply thankful, seem to move through life with a kind of effortless magnetism. Things find them, opportunities appear, connections form.
not because the universe is playing favorites, but because they are broadcasting a frequency that is in alignment with expansion, and expansion always produces more of itself. Now here is where it gets truly extraordinary, and this is the part that most teachings about gratitude completely miss. The most powerful form of gratitude is not gratitude for what you already have. It is gratitude for what has not yet arrived. It is the ability to feel genuinely thankful for a dream that still lives only in your imagination. To say, thank you for this life I am building. Thank you for this abundance that is on its way. Thank you for this love, this health, this freedom that I am stepping into. And to feel that gratitude as if the thing already exists, as if it is already real, as if you are looking back on it from the future and giving thanks. This is what the great spiritual traditions have always called faith. Not blind faith, not passive waiting, active faith. The kind that acts, feels, and speaks from the certainty of an outcome that the physical eyes cannot yet confirm. And when you combine that kind of faith with the emotional frequency of genuine gratitude, you create one of the most powerful states available to the human mind. You create a magnetic field so strong, so clear, so consistent that the superconscious mind has no choice but to organize your reality around it. So, let me give you the practice. I want you to try this for 7 days. Every morning, before the world gets in, sit quietly for 5 minutes, and instead of listing what you are grateful for, instead of going through the familiar inventory of health, family, shelter, I want you to close your eyes and feel gratitude for the life you are choosing. Not someday, now. Feel it as if you just received the news that everything you have been working toward has arrived. Your financial freedom, your dream relationship, your thriving health, your creative success, whatever it is for you. Sit inside the feeling of receiving that news. Let your body respond. Let your heart open. Let the emotion be real, because to the superconscious mind, it is real. Do that for 5 minutes every morning for 7 days, and notice what changes. Not because you are tricking the universe, but because you are changing the signal you are broadcasting. You are shifting from the frequency of waiting and wanting to the frequency of receiving and expanding. And that shift, sustained over time, will reorganize your life in ways that will leave you breathless. Now, I want to talk about something that is deeply connected to gratitude, but rarely discussed in these conversations, and that is the relationship between gratitude and self-worth. Because here's the quiet truth that lives underneath most people's struggle to feel genuinely grateful. They don't feel worthy of the things they want. They can feel grateful for what they have, the basic, the familiar, the already earned. But to feel genuinely thankful for abundance they haven't yet experienced, for love they haven't yet received, for success they haven't yet achieved, that requires believing that they deserve it. And for many people, that belief is the missing piece. So if you find it difficult to feel gratitude for your unlived dreams, if there is a voice that says, this feels arrogant or delusional or like you are pretending, then what that voice is really saying is that you don't yet fully believe you are worthy of those things. And that is the work that must be done alongside the gratitude practice, not before it, alongside it. Because worthiness is not something you earn, it is something you claim. It is a decision. Nobody is going to knock on your door one day and hand you a certificate that says, congratulations, you have now officially done enough, struggled enough, proved enough. You are worthy. That moment will never come from the outside. It can only come from the inside, from a quiet, firm, unshakable decision made right now, in this moment, to stop waiting for permission to believe in your own value. You are worthy of abundance not because of what you have achieved, but because of what you are. Because you are a conscious being with the capacity to dream, to create, to love, and to grow. That capacity alone makes you worthy of everything that life has to offer. And the moment you truly accept that, not just intellectually, but in the marrow of your bones, the frequency of your life changes completely. I also want to talk about the gratitude that heals, because not everything we need to be grateful for is pleasant. some of the most powerful gratitude you will ever practice will be directed at the hardest chapters of your life, the rejection that redirected you, the failure that taught you what no success ever could, the loss that cracked you open and made space for a depth of compassion you could never have found otherwise, the relationship that ended and forced you to discover who you were on their own. When you can look at those experiences, not with toxic positivity, not by pretending the pain wasn't real, but with genuine recognition that they were not punishments, they were preparations, something extraordinary happens. The wound transforms, the resentment releases, and in its place, something spacious opens up, a freedom, a lightness, a sense that your story, all of it, every chapter, every scar, was working for you, not against you. This is one of the highest forms of the law of assumption in action, to assume that your life has always been moving in your favor, even when it looked nothing like it, to assume that every experience was curriculum, not consequence. That assumption, practiced consistently, rewrites your entire relationship with your past. And when your relationship with the past transforms, your relationship with the future transforms alongside it. Because you stop fearing what might go wrong, you start trusting that whatever comes, whatever challenge, whatever unexpected turn, is simply the next chapter of a story that is always, always moving towards something meaningful. Before we close this part, I want to give you one final image to carry with you. Imagine you are standing in a vast open field at night. The sky above you is filled with stars, more stars than you can count, stretching out in every direction, an infinite canopy of light. And in your hand,
we have traveled a remarkable distance together. We have explored the superconscious mind and its infinite capacity. We have dismantled the limiting belief systems that have been quietly running your life from the background. We have unlocked the transformative power of sleep, of visualization, of daily identity, and of gratitude so deep it rewires your frequency from the inside out. And now we arrive at something that is woven through every single moment of your waking life, something so constant, so ever-present, that most people never stop to examine it, and yet it is shaping your reality with every passing hour. We are talking about your words. The language you speak out loud, the sentences you construct when you describe yourself to others, the words you use when something goes wrong, the phrases you repeat so often they have become invisible to you. Your words are not decoration. They are not simply sounds that evaporate into the air after you speak them. Your words are instructions. They are commands sent directly to the superconscious mind. And the superconscious mind, loyal and precise, follows every single one. This is not a new idea. Every wisdom tradition in human history has understood the sacred power of the spoken word. In the beginning was the Word. This is not poetry. This is a description of how reality is created. The ancient Egyptians spoke of Heka, the magic of words and breath combined. The Vedic traditions built entire sciences around the vibrational power of sound and spoken intention. Indigenous cultures around the world have always known that words carry medicine or poison depending on how they are used. And modern neuroscience is now confirming what these traditions always knew. The words you speak, and especially the words you speak about yourself, directly shape the neural architecture of your brain, the biochemistry of your body, and the energetic signal you broadcast into the world around you. Let me give you a concrete example of how this works. Two people experience the same setback. A business idea fails, a relationship ends, a job opportunity falls through. The first person says, "I always fail. Nothing ever works out for me. I knew this would happen. I am just not cut out for this." The second person says, "That did not work the way I planned. I'm learning. I'm growing. I'm getting closer to the version of this that will succeed." Same event, completely different language. And here's what most people do not realize. Those two sets of words are not just describing two different emotional responses. They are creating two entirely different neurological and energetic realities. The first person is instructing their superconscious mind to find more evidence of failure, more confirmation of unworthiness, more experiences that match the story of "I always fail." And the superconscious, which does not judge, which simply executes the instructions it receives, will deliver exactly that. The second person is instructing their superconscious mind to find pathways forward, to identify lessons, to locate opportunities within the setback. And again, the superconscious delivers exactly what it is asked for. Your words are always asking for something. The question is, do you know what you are asking for? Most people, if they truly listened to the language they use about themselves on an average day, would be shocked. The casual self-deprecation that feels like humility but is actually self-sabotage. The offhand comments like, "I'm so bad with money," or "I'm terrible at relationships," or "I could never do something like that." The reflexive pessimism that sounds like realism but is simply a trained habit of low expectation. Every one of these statements is a command. Every one of them is a seed planted in the fertile soil of the superconscious mind, and every single one of them will grow. So the first practice I want to give you is what I call the language audit. For one full day, just one day, I want you to become a witness to your own words. Not to judge them, not to feel guilty about them, but to hear them, truly hear them. Notice every time you say something about yourself that diminishes you. Notice every time you describe your life with language that assumes limitation. Notice every time you speak about your dreams with words that keep them safely in the future rather than pulling them into the present. Just notice, because awareness is always the first step of transformation. You cannot change what you cannot see. And most people have been speaking in self-limiting language for so long that it has become completely invisible to them. After the audit comes the shift. And the shift is not about forcing yourself to speak in ways that feel false or performative. It's not about pretending that everything is perfect when it's not. It's about choosing language that is honest and expansive at the same time. Language that acknowledges where you are while simultaneously pointing toward where you are going. Language that treats you as someone in motion rather than someone stuck. Here's the difference in practice. Instead of "I'm so bad with money," you say, "I'm learning how to build a powerful relationship with money." Instead of "I could never do something like that," you say, "I haven't done that yet, and I'm open to discovering how." Instead of "nothing ever works out for me," you say, "I'm someone who finds a way through." Every shift is subtle, but the cumulative effect of these shifts, practiced day after day, is anything but subtle. You are literally reprogramming the language center of your brain. You are changing the instructions being sent to your superconscious mind. And over time, the superconscious begins responding to those new instructions with new results, new opportunities, and new evidence that the expanded version of you is real. Now I want to go deeper into something that most people overlook entirely when they think about the power of words. And that is the power of the questions you ask yourself. Because here's something remarkable about the human brain. It can't resist a question. When you ask your brain a question, any question, it immediately begins searching for an answer. It can't help it. It's wired for inquiry. And this means that the questions you habitually ask yourself are among the most powerful forces shaping your experience of life. Most people ask themselves terrible questions without realizing it. Why does this always happen to me? What is wrong with me? Why can I never get ahead? Why am I so unlucky? And the brain, faithful and precise, goes searching for answers, and it finds them. Oh yes, it finds them. It pulls from memory every piece of evidence that confirms the answer to that terrible question. every past failure, every moment of rejection, every time things went wrong, and it presents all of that evidence as proof that yes, this always happens to you, proof that yes, something is wrong with you. The question determined the search, and the search confirmed the story. But here's the extraordinary thing. You can change the question, and when you change the question, you change what the brain searches for. You change the evidence it finds. You change the story it tells, and ultimately, you change the reality it helps you create. So instead of asking, "Why does this always happen to me?" you ask, "What is this experience trying to teach me?" Instead of asking, "What is wrong with me?" you ask, "What strength in me is ready to emerge right now?" Instead of asking, "Why can I never get ahead?" you ask, "What is one powerful step I can take today that moves me forward?" Instead of asking, "Why am I so unlucky?" you ask, "Where is the opportunity hidden inside this challenge?" These are not naive questions. They are the questions of someone who has decided to use their mind as a tool of creation rather than a weapon of self-destruction. And the brain will answer them. It will find evidence of lessons, of strength, of steps forward, of hidden opportunity, because that is what it was asked to find. Now I want to talk about declarations, because beyond the everyday language you use and the questions you ask, there's another level of verbal power available to you, and that is the deliberate, conscious, intentional use of spoken declarations to anchor a new identity into your nervous system. A declaration is different from an affirmation in one crucial way. An affirmation is something you hope is true. A declaration is something you choose to make true through the act of speaking it. An affirmation says, "I am becoming wealthy." A declaration says, "I am someone who creates and commands wealth." An affirmation reaches. A declaration plants a flag. The power of a declaration comes from three things spoken together at once: your voice, your breath, and your intention. When all three align around a statement of chosen identity, something happens in the body. The nervous system responds. The superconscious mind registers it not as a wish, but as an established fact, and it begins organizing your inner world around that fact. Your posture shifts, your decisions shift, the way you walk into a room shifts, because somewhere below the level of conscious thought, a new truth has been installed, and the body.
And I want to begin today with a question that I suspect has been quietly living in the back of your mind throughout this entire journey. It is a fair question, an important question, and it deserves a direct, honest answer. The question is this: does any of this actually require me to do anything? If the superconscious mind is so powerful, if gratitude shifts frequency, if words create reality, if visualization rewires the brain, then what is the role of action? Do I simply think and feel and speak my way to everything I want, or is there something more required of me? And the answer is yes. Action is required, absolutely, unequivocally, always. But the action we are talking about in this part is not the action most people are familiar with. It is not the grinding, white-knuckled, force-your-way-through kind of action that the world has convinced you is the only path to success. It is not the exhausting hustle that leaves you depleted and resentful and wondering why nothing you do ever seems to be enough. What we are talking about today is something entirely different, something that once you experience it, you will wonder how you ever lived without it. We are talking about inspired action. And understanding the difference between forced action and inspired action may be the single most liberating insight of this entire journey. Here is the difference. Forced action comes from fear. It comes from the desperate feeling that if you stop moving, everything will fall apart. It comes from a place of lack, the belief that you must compensate through sheer effort for everything that life has not given you. Forced action is exhausting because it is fighting against the current. It is you pushing the river instead of learning to flow with it.
And the tragedy of forced action is that it often produces results. It produces just enough to keep you trapped in the cycle, just enough success to justify the suffering, just enough progress to make you believe that the suffering is the price you must pay. Inspired action is completely different. It comes from alignment. It comes from the superconscious mind, which has been absorbing your intentions, your visualizations, your declarations, your gratitude, your chosen identity, and has been quietly, invisibly working behind the scenes to organize the pieces of your desired reality. And then, at the right moment, it sends a signal. Not always a loud signal. Sometimes it is a whisper, a sudden knowing, an unexpected urge to reach out to someone you haven't spoken to in years, an idea that arrives fully formed in the middle of a quiet morning, a door that opens so naturally, so effortlessly, that you almost miss it because you were looking for something harder. That is inspired action. And when you take it, when you honor it, when you move on it quickly and without overthinking, you will notice something remarkable. It works. Not because you forced an outcome, but because you were in alignment with one. The action was not creating the result from scratch. The result was already forming. The action was simply the final step that brought it into physical reality. Think of it this way. Imagine a river flowing toward the ocean. The river does not strain, it does not panic, it does not force its way around every rock and obstacle in a frenzy of effort. It flows. It finds the path of least resistance, and yet it is one of the most powerful forces in nature. Given enough time, a river will carve through mountains, not through force, through alignment with its own nature and with the laws that govern it. Inspired action is you becoming the river. It is you learning to flow with the intelligence of the superconscious rather than fighting against it with the limited strength of the conscious mind alone. Now, the critical question is, how do you know the difference? In any given moment, how do you know whether the action you are being called to take is inspired or whether it is just fear in disguise? Because fear can be very clever. It can dress itself up as urgency, as responsibility, as practicality. It can whisper, "You need to do this right now or everything will collapse." And it can be genuinely difficult to tell the difference between an authentic, inspired impulse and an anxious reaction dressed up as decisive action. Here is the clearest way I know to tell them apart. Inspired action feels like expansion. Even if it is uncomfortable, even if it requires courage, even if it involves stepping into unfamiliar territory, it feels like it is moving you towards something. It feels alive. It feels right in a way that goes beyond logic. There is a resonance to it, a sense of yes inside the uncertainty. Fear-based action, on the other hand, feels like contraction. It feels tight. It feels desperate. It has an energy of running away from something rather than moving towards something. It is animated by the anxiety of what will happen if I don't, rather than the excitement of what becomes possible if I do. And the more you practice sitting in the superconscious states we've been building throughout this journey, the visualization, the gratitude, the declarations, the conscious sleep seating, the more sensitive you will become to that distinction. Your inner compass will sharpen. Your ability to feel the difference between alignment and fear will become one of your greatest navigational tools, and you will begin making decisions not just from logic and analysis, but from a deep, embodied knowing that is smarter than any spreadsheet, wiser than any strategy, and more reliable than any external advice. Now, let us talk about how to cultivate the conditions for inspired action to arise, because you cannot force inspiration, but you can create an environment where it flows naturally and frequently. And the first condition is stillness. This is one of the great paradoxes of the achievement-obsessed culture we live in. The most productive thing you can do is sometimes to be completely still, to stop doing, to stop planning, to stop solving, and to simply sit in the quiet. Because the superconscious mind speaks most clearly in the silence. It is always transmitting, but if your days are filled from edge to edge with noise and activity and stimulation, you will never hear it. You will be so busy generating your own mental noise that the quiet intelligence trying to guide you simply cannot get through. This is why meditation, in any form that works for you, is not a luxury. It is a necessity for anyone who wants to operate from the superconscious level. It does not need to be formal or complicated. It does not require a cushion or a special room or a teacher. It simply requires moments of intentional stillness, moments where you put down everything, the phone, the to-do list, the internal chatter, and you breathe, you listen, you allow. And in those moments of allowing, the superconscious speaks, the inspired impulse arises, the idea surfaces, the direction becomes clear. The second condition for inspired action is trust, and this is perhaps the most challenging piece for people who have been trained by a world that rewards only visible, measurable, logical progress. Trust means being willing to act on an impulse that you cannot yet fully justify. It means saying yes to something before you've worked out every detail of how it will unfold. It means taking the first step even when the full staircase is not yet visible. This is not recklessness. It is faith in the intelligence of your own superconscious mind. It is the understanding that the part of you that is connected to the creative force of the universe can see farther than your conscious planning mind alone. And that sometimes the most aligned thing you can do is simply move in the direction of the signal and trust that the path will reveal itself as you walk it. I want to share something about the nature of timing, because one of the things that causes people to miss their inspired action windows is impatience. The superconscious mind does not operate on your preferred schedule. It operates on a deeper intelligence that considers factors you cannot even perceive from your current vantage point. And sometimes what feels like waiting is actually preparation. What feels like delay is actually alignment happening beneath the surface, pieces moving into position, people being positioned in your path, circumstances being arranged that you won't fully understand until you look back from a place further down the road. So when the action has not yet come, when you are in that in-between space of having set your intention, having done your inner work and waiting for the next clear step, do not fill that space with panic, fill it with preparation. Become more of the person who is ready to receive what is coming. Read, learn, rest, strengthen your body, deepen your relationships, expand your knowledge, not frantically, not desperately, but with the calm confidence of someone who knows that everything is moving in the right direction and that the moment of action is simply gathering its full power before it arrives. And when it does arrive, when that impulse comes, when that door opens, when that idea strikes with the unmistakable quality of rightness, move. Do not wait for more certainty. Do not wait until you feel completely ready. Do not let the analytical mind talk you out of what the superconscious mind is clearly directing you towards. Move with it. Honor it, because inspired action that is ignored doesn't simply wait around forever. It moves on to someone else who is listening more closely, and you are someone who is listening. There is one more thing I want to say about action before we close this part, and it's something that the most extraordinary achievers understand deeply, even if they rarely talk about it in these terms. The purpose of action is not only the result it produces. The purpose of action is also who you become in the taking of it.
And I want to begin this closing with something that I hope lands in the deepest part of you, something that goes beyond information, beyond technique, beyond practice. Because everything we have covered in this journey, the superconscious mind, the law of assumption, the power of sleep and visualization, the frequency of gratitude, the language of creation, the intelligence of inspired action, all of it has been pointing toward one thing. Not a destination, not an achievement, not a version of your life that you will one day arrive at and finally be able to relax. It has been pointing toward a way of being, a way of moving through every single ordinary moment of your life with the full awareness of who you truly are and what you are truly capable of. That is what this final part is about. Not what you do, who you are.
and what becomes possible when those two things finally align. There is a moment that happens for people who commit to this work. It does not come all at once. It is not a single dramatic awakening that transforms everything overnight. It arrives gradually, and then suddenly, like the way dawn works. For a long time it is still dark. Then there is just the faintest suggestion of light at the edge of the horizon, and then more light, and then more, until one morning you look up and realize that it is fully day, and you cannot quite remember the moment that darkness ended. That is what living from the superconscious feels like. One day you notice that the inner voice of doubt has grown quieter. One day you notice that opportunities seem to find you rather than the other way around. One day you catch yourself moving through a challenge with a steadiness, a groundedness, a quiet confidence that surprises even you. And you realize that something has fundamentally shifted, not in the world around you, in you, in the place from which you meet the world. This is what I want to talk about in this final chapter. What does it actually look like to live as a superconscious person? Not in the morning practice, not in the meditation, not in the carefully constructed visualization session, but in the grocery store, in the difficult conversation, in the moment when everything goes sideways and the old patterns of fear and self-doubt come rushing back. What does it look like there? Because that is where the real work is done, and that is where the real transformation becomes visible. The first quality of a superconscious life is presence. And I don't mean presence in the abstract philosophical sense. I mean the very practical, very powerful ability to be fully here, in this moment, in this conversation, in this experience. Not half here and half in the future worrying about what comes next. Not half here and half in the past rehearsing what went wrong. Fully, completely, entirely here. Because the superconscious mind does not live in the past or the future. It lives in the eternal present. And the more you learn to inhabit the present moment, the more you train yourself to return to it again and again whenever your mind drifts, the more access you have to the intelligence, the creativity, the inspiration, and the power that the superconscious carries. Presence is not passive. It is one of the most active states available to a human being. When you are truly present in a conversation, you hear things that others miss. You sense the unspoken need beneath the spoken words. You respond from wisdom rather than react from habit. When you are truly present in your work, ideas come that never would have surfaced in a distracted state. Connections form, solutions appear. The quality of everything you touch improves because you are actually there, fully invested, fully alive, fully available to the intelligence that wants to flow through you. The second quality of a superconscious life is equanimity. And this is perhaps the most misunderstood quality of all. People often confuse equanimity with indifference. They think it means not caring, not feeling, moving through life with a kind of detached serenity that is untouched by difficulty or emotion. But that is not equanimity. That is numbness. And numbness is the opposite of what we are building here. True equanimity is the ability to feel everything, the joy and the grief, the excitement and the fear, the love and the loss, without being swept away by any of it. It is the capacity to remain rooted in your own identity, your own truth, your own chosen frequency, even when the storms of life are moving through you at full force. A superconscious person does not pretend that hard things are not hard. They do not perform positivity in the face of genuine pain. They allow themselves to be fully human, fully feeling, fully present with the difficulty, while simultaneously holding the deeper knowing that this too is part of the story, that this challenge is not an interruption of their path, it is the path, and that on the other side of it, if they stay rooted, if they stay true, if they keep choosing their identity rather than surrendering it to the circumstance, there is growth waiting that could not have come any other way. The third quality of a superconscious life is generosity. And I want you to hear this one carefully, because it connects to everything we have been building throughout this entire journey. When you operate from the superconscious mind, when you genuinely live from abundance, from worthiness, from the certainty that the universe is fundamentally on your side, something extraordinary happens to your relationship with other people. You stop seeing them as competition. You stop measuring yourself against them. You stop feeling diminished by their success or threatened by their progress, because you understand at the deepest level that there is enough. Enough success, enough abundance, enough love, enough opportunity for every single person who is willing to align with the frequency of their own superconscious power. And from that place of genuine sufficiency, generosity flows naturally, not as a strategy, not as a spiritual performance, but as the authentic expression of someone who knows they are not lacking anything essential. You become someone who lifts others without losing altitude yourself, who shares knowledge without fear of giving away too much, who celebrates the wins of the people around you with genuine joy, because their success does not diminish yours. It simply confirms that what you are also reaching for is real and possible and available. This quality of generosity, this abundance consciousness in action, is also one of the most powerful signals you can send to the superconscious mind and to the universe, because when you give from fullness, you are declaring, "I am not afraid. I am not in lack. I trust that more is always coming." And the universe, which always responds to the signal of your consciousness, hears that declaration and reflects it back into your life in the form of more opportunity, more connection, more abundance flowing to the one who has proven they can hold it without clutching it. The fourth quality of a superconscious life is patience rooted in certainty. And this is different from passive waiting. It's the patience of someone who knows, not hopes, not wishes, knows. The way a farmer knows that the seed planted in good soil, watered consistently, given light and time, will grow. The farmer does not dig up the seed every morning to check if it is working. The farmer trusts the process. The farmer shows up every day to tend the conditions without demanding that the harvest appear on any particular timetable. That is the patience of a superconscious person. It is not resignation. It is not giving up. It is the deepest form of faith, active, tending, trusting, and completely unshaken by the apparent absence of visible results in any given moment. Because here is what you now know that most people never learn. The results are not the measure of the truth. The inner reality always precedes the outer reality. The seed always comes before the harvest, and the time between planting and harvest is not empty time. It is the most important time. It is the time when everything is being arranged beneath the surface, when the roots are growing deep, when the foundation is being laid that will support everything that is coming. Honor that time. Do not waste it in anxiety or impatience. Use it to become more fully the person who is ready to receive what is growing toward them. Now, I want to speak directly to the part of you that still has doubts, the part that has listened to all 7 parts of this journey and found it resonant and compelling and genuinely moving, and yet still hears a quiet voice somewhere in the background that says, "But what if it doesn't work for me? What if I'm the exception? What if my circumstances are too difficult, my past too heavy, my starting point too far from where I want to go?" I want to speak to that voice with complete honesty and complete compassion. That voice is not your enemy. It is the part of you that has been hurt before, the part that believed in something and was disappointed, the part that tried and fell short, the part that learned through painful experience that hope can be dangerous. That voice deserves to be heard. It deserves your kindness, but it does not deserve your obedience. Because here is what is true. There is no exception. There is no human being walking this earth for whom the superconscious mind is unavailable. There is no past so heavy that it cannot be transformed into fuel. There is no starting point so far from the destination that the journey is not worth beginning. The only variable, the only thing that determines whether any of this works for any individual person is the decision. The daily, repeated, sometimes difficult decision to keep choosing, to keep believing, to keep returning to the truth of who you are, even when everything around you seems to be arguing for a smaller version of your story.
That decision is available to you right now, in this moment. Not after you feel more ready, not after your circumstances improve, not after someone gives you permission. Right now, in this breath, in this moment of awareness. The door is open. It has always been open. The only question is whether you are willing to walk through it. I want to close this journey with something that I hope you will carry with you long after the last word of this audiobook fades. You came into this life with everything you need, not some of what you need, everything. The intelligence, the creativity, the resilience, the capacity for love, the ability to dream and build and connect and create. It was all given to you at the beginning. None of it was withheld. None of it was given to others and denied to you. It was placed inside you with the same precision and the same generosity with which the universe placed stars in the sky and roots in the earth and breath in your lungs. The work of your life is not to acquire what you lack, it is to remember what you already carry, to peel back the layers of conditioning and fear and inherited limitation that have been covering the light that was always there, to wake up, not as a dramatic single event, but as a daily practice, a daily choice, a daily return to the truth of your own infinite nature. To live as fully as you possibly can from the superconscious mind that connects you to everything that has ever been created and everything that is waiting to be born. You are not small. You have never been small. You have simply been asleep to your own size. And now, having traveled this road together, you are awake, perhaps more awake than you have ever been. And what you do with that awakening, how you carry it into your relationships, your work, your creative life, your service to the world around you, that is your story to write. And I believe with everything I am that it is going to be extraordinary. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having the courage to go deep. Thank you for choosing, in a world that constantly pulls toward the surface, to dive. The world needs people who are awake, people who create from abundance rather than fear, people who lead from love rather than lack, people who dare to believe before any evidence arrives that life is on their side and that they are here for something meaningful. You are one of those people. You always have been. Go live like it.